Hiring is the most important thing that we do. 60% of resumes are incorrect. Every single candidate that knows how to use AI to rewrite their resume with your job description, and then they send it right back to you. So if you're an employer and you don't have some structured process to figure out how to break through this bullshit game of people gamifying and rewriting their resume, you don't even stand a chance. Don't get too overwhelmed with all these different ideas. Go implement one forever.
Welcome to the Average Sucks Show, where we get an opportunity to interview people that live above average lives, people that have above average skills, and more importantly, people that are doing things that most people aren't doing. And today's guest is very, very, very exciting to hear from. And the reason why is a lot of you are entrepreneurs out there, or you're helping entrepreneurs grow companies, and hiring and finding talent on your team is not only necessary, it's the lifeblood of business, the lifeblood of getting you from where you are to where you want to go. And why I'm excited about this guest is somebody that I met at a mastermind, I guess a couple of years ago. And what I'm excited about this is we cracked up in the back of the room, we shared stuff. And one of the coolest things is my love of language, my love of communication, my love of influence is aligned with this love of finding talent and really getting the most out of people and helping companies grow what it is they do. Max Hansen is the founder of YScouts. He also is someone that sold a company for over $50 million. So if you want to see someone above average, they did incredible stuff. The coolest part about today is we're going to dive deep into how to find the greatest talent for your team, how to get past all the BS or people, BS you randomly about their interview process. And on top of that, how to build a culture in the team and the leadership that you want. So super excited. My dear friend, Max Hansen, glad you're here, buddy. Another Arizona man in town.
Thanks
I caught you before you ran to Coeur d'Alene.
Yeah, you did.
Yep.
I already visited up there to get things settled last weekend, but I'll be heading back up in about a week. So yeah, you caught me
get
right
out of the
before.
heat into the cold.
That's right.
And I felt like I clotheslined you, stopped you before you left.
That's right.
We were cracking up that day.
Oh yeah.
You and I were laughing, making jokes at Genius, having fun. And
yeah.
I just want to tell you, I always admire someone that does big things in this world. And I look at you and you're like, when I talk about hiring and recruiting, I come from the place most people do. It's like this thing. And you come from it's just easy and natural. So is this always been your background? I mean, how did you, were you recruiting people to do your homework when you were a kid? I mean, when did this start?
I wish I had a better story, but I can give you kind of the story was, I wanted to live in San Diego, and I was living with my brother, who was an engineer.
So were you in Arizona first?
I went to NAU.
Okay.
But I knew I didn't want to live in Flagstaff, so I got out of Flagstaff. I went to San Diego.
Anybody want to live in Flagstaff?
No. The
only thing I have 5 clients in Flagstaff. They like Flagstaff.
The only thing I knew in college is I saw a few people that got stuck in Flagstaff for 3 or 4 years, and I'm like, I'm not going to be that guy. So
it is a beautiful place to visit.
It is, yeah. So I packed up my car, go to San Diego, and I was going to start a new life in San Diego. I will admit I interviewed at Enterprise Rent-A-Car, did not get a job in San Diego.
I worked at Alamo.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah. You didn't get the job? You didn't get hired?
No.
You didn't get hired?
So yeah,
they'll hire anybody.
I know, and they didn't hire me. I don't know.
What was it? Drug test? How'd you fail?
No, I didn't even take a drug test. I probably would have failed it, to be honest with you. But so I had a buddy that said, come back to Arizona. There's an interview at a company called Aerotech, which Aerotech is a Baltimore-based recruiting and search firm. Very, very well-run company. Stephen Bouchatti is one of the founders. It's an incredible story. Most people don't know his story. He now owns the Baltimore Ravens.
Oh wow, that's the name. Yeah.
Yeah. So I started my career there. I knew I didn't want to wait in line to be promoted because they had really good other people there. So I left, went to work for a small search firm, and then eventually started my own company January of 2002.
Oh wow. Okay, so. Did you learn everything from the other company and then you decided to do
yourself?
I
mean, honestly, the company that I jumped to was so bad. I mean, and then let me give my team credit and everybody that helped me with the journey that I'm going to talk about. But it was so bad that I kind of in my head just said, you know what? I'm going to go do this. I can do this on my own better than what these guys are doing it. Because it was such a bad culture. And I knew if I wanted to start a company and I wanted to be the culture I wanted, at that point in my career, I was like, I'll just go start it myself. 26.
So 26, you understood the word culture?
Yeah.
Did you use that word? Because I know that's a word now.
Yeah. I don't.
You and I about the same age. So
come to think of it, I don't know if I was using the word culture. I just knew that I wanted to build a environment that was different than the one that I jumped from Aerotech to.
Got it.
And it was because the owners were just, they didn't get along that great. It was just, people didn't perform at a high level. It was average. So
Average
this is
sucks.
perfect.
Yeah,
And
average sucks. Yeah, average sucks. Yeah.
So I went, I started my own business. I actually met with a guy that I competed against. He was 2 buildings down. It was a smaller company. And I started meeting with him on a weekly basis and talking about how we'd start our own company. And so one thing led to another, and we started our company January of 2002. It was right after 9/11, so it was kind of not the greatest time at the time to start a company, but hindsight 2020, we grew 100% year over year until we were doing over 50 million, and then I exited in 2015.
Wow. So you're telling me you didn't even know what you were doing. You just didn't like the way it felt.
Yeah.
So you're like so how did you even work for someone else? That sounds like an entrepreneur, right? Like, were you an entrepreneur as a kid?
No.
Like, did you hustle as a kid? Were you dealing stuff on the side? I mean,
actually,
selling garbage pail kids?
I was a hustler as a kid. I mean, like the story before we were talking about this, I almost brought it up because I think it's like relevant to the average sucks. Is I was very lucky and God had the God-given like athletic talent. So I played a lot of sports. We were talking about hockey earlier. Football, baseball, basketball. I played college baseball for a year.
Cool. NAU?
No, I went up to NAU to play football, but I didn't end up playing. So, so I was the kid, and I say this very humbly, that I was the first kid picked on every single playground, every time.
I was the last kid picked.
Yeah. See, I mean, when people tell their story, also the guy that sleeps in his car that starts his company, I think those are fascinating stories. But I'm always like, what about the guy like me that was the first person picked as a kid and then did pretty well and got good grades when I wanted to? But what got a little harder is when I started my own business was like all that shit didn't matter. So I had to figure out how to kind of channel the competitiveness and being a leader and being the captain of almost every team into running a business. And I kind of figured it out. And so I didn't know what I was doing, but I knew how to lead and I knew how to compete. And that was kind of what kind of led me to, and I figured out, I knew I didn't know a lot. So I joined EO when I was about 26 years old, learned from a bunch of other entrepreneurs and, kind of just made it happen.
Interesting. So basically you went into business yourself, never did it before, worked for someone, so I'm going to figure this thing out.
Yeah.
Were you in a relationship then? Were you married?
No, I was
single.
I was single.
So you had nothing to lose.
No, I had nothing to lose.
You had an apartment?
And I had a house.
I
actually had a first house at this point.
Where was it at?
Tempe.
Okay.
I paid $142,000 for a house.
Look what you just 140. You can't even remodel a garage for $142,000 now.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I talked to the guy I mentioned that I met, like one of my buddies, ended up being my business partner for 13 years. Great dude. So we start meeting, and while we're meeting talking about starting our own company, because neither one of us really had ever worked for ourselves, obviously, because we were young, he had a client that asked him like, hey, like who all works in your company? And at the time, my old partner, he had like 2 or 3 people in his office. And so his customer, who ended up being our business partner, which is a whole crazy story, but he said, well, why don't you just do this on your own? Because this was a true entrepreneur. This guy had like 5 companies. So I met this guy for 1 beer, and over 1 beer, he asked me about what I wanted to do. I told him I wanted to start my recruiting company. I told him, how we would do it. It was going to be a contract to hire model. He asked me how much money I need. I didn't really know. I told him $200,000, and kind of the rest is history.
You just threw a number out there?
I mean, it was an educated guess.
Okay.
We never were into him for more than $100,000, and then we started to make money over the next year. And
this was 2001 too.
January 2002, right after 9/11, and then it just one thing led to another. I mean, I would say humbly, like I'm a natural born salesperson.
Got it. I can see that
face to face, like.
Were you doing that? Were you answering the phone, doing the recruiting, all of it at once yourself?
Yeah. I'd say my partner was more of the operations guy. And so he'd get kind of the finance and operations, and I was more of the sales guy. So it was a good, kind of combo. But man, this was back in the day when you used to hustle. Like literally I used to go on foot and cold call companies.
Let's bring people back because I got some people.
Okay.
I got some people here.
I got some great
20,
stories.
So I need stories. So I want to make context for everybody. This is before there was
used to hide behind your phone.
Craigslist, MySpace. There was a phone. There was no internet database. Monster.com is not available yet. Am I correct?
No, yeah. Okay. Monster's not quite available
2003, 4?
Actually, Monster was. Because when I was at Aerotech, like my first recruiting company, they actually had Monster, but it was a different version.
Different. It was not like you literally would knock on a door of like Insider, Intel, like, are you hiring? Like, so what was it like back then? Because now we think it's hard now.
Yeah.
Think about that for a second. Right now I can go to Indeed, Craigslist. I'm using Craig. No one knows Craigslist, but you can go to Indeed. You can go to ZipRecruiter, like on the low end, right?
Yep.
And put some stuff up and maybe get some ads. Facebook. There was no Facebook. There was nothing. So what was a day like when you're sitting there with a couple $100,000 you got to loan money against? You got to get up and go find clients. What the heck did you do all day? Tell me some stories.
You know, I mean, first and foremost, when I started, this guy said, hey, start your own business. I started with a phone book. I didn't even name the company yet. So that was one thing. I was in a cube in the back of their offices, and my partner didn't start for like 2 weeks after I did. So I was literally like, holy shit, what did I do?
You're just calling account numbers out of the phone book?
I figured out, named the company, and we would basically, at the time that we did a lot of manufacturing, that's what I knew. So I just would go on foot and kind of cold call manufacturing centers and call centers and accounts like that.
Locally, mainly in Arizona, like Tempe?
Mostly in Arizona, probably 90% of our work or more. Yeah. I was on Broadway, yeah. And it was interesting. I like, there were a couple, like I have 2 or 3 stories that I remember so vividly, but literally I would find addresses in like a old school, like, Zoom info.
And use MapQuest.
And then I go MapQuest and go drive it. Yeah. With folders full of my sales stuff. And I would go knock on the door and like say, hey, can I talk to you about, whatever they had, like an ad in the paper or something. And, one of the greatest sales stories that I have is I was doing that on foot one day. There's a couple of them, but I'll just give you kind of one and tell me if you want more. I go in Goodrich Aircraft Interior Products. This is probably like 2005. And they have like a door. It's like an HR door. This is like a manufacturing plant. And so I go in the HR door and I go to give them my stuff. I'm like, hi, my name's Max Hansen. I'm, from Job Brokers. That was the name of the company. And they're like, we have a national agreement with Adecco. They go down all the national players. And I'm like, all right, well, I just would want an opportunity. If you have anything open, I'll take it and prove myself. And so they're like, yeah, beat it, kid. So I walk out. And as I'm walking out, this lady comes running out. And she's like, hey, I've got one role that I really need help with. It was a Pro E engineer, design engineer. And so she gives the rec to me. I take it back. My partner is a really good recruiter, especially for design and engineering. We find them a guy, and they call me back to the office. And I walk in there, and I'm sitting down. And in this conference room is Airbus and Goodrich. I guess they had a design flaw that all of the A380s, the biggest passenger airplanes in this day and age now, they were all waiting to be deployed to like Virgin and everybody that's buying them because they had a design flaw with their evacuation system, which was Goodrich Aircraft Interior Products. And so the design engineer we found fixed that problem.
Wow.
So they said to me in front of them, they said, listen, we want to just like publicly thank you. And now it's going to go to production. We don't know what your firm does, but if you want all the production work from here, we give you anything that you want as far as the work, like to produce all these. And you got to imagine the Airbus 380, if anybody knows what that is. It's a double-decker plane, so like the evacuation system is giant.
It's elevators inside.
So we said yes. Me and my partner, we only did like design and engineering at that point, but we said yes, and then we started hiring people, and we took on that project. But they were so cool. We didn't even have the proper insurance. And they were so happy that this guy fixed their problems that they even provided insurance for our people to send them to Ireland to go pack all these planes and bags and do all this testing and stuff. So that was one of the many breaks.
Wow.
But it was
a break or just that's how it works out?
I will, the humble side of me says I got a good break. But then the practical side, when I think back of like all the different doors I knocked on and walked into, it was
created opportunity.
It was bound to happen. I believed it was going to happen, and it happened.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest. I think one of the biggest things. You put yourself in enough of the right situation, you wind up winning. So let me ask you this: didn't someone teach you how to do this like recruiting thing? And the reason I ask is like, as an entrepreneur, I started off like you did.
Yeah.
I started off selling. I had a hint of what I thought recruiting was. I did direct sales when I was younger, which is getting people into business opportunity. That was my selling. I ran a call center at one point when I was younger, and I learned how to recruit people for like, get on the phone. Do you have a breath? Do you have a pulse? Do you know what I'm saying? It's 1099, full commission, jump on the phone. I never really learned how to do it. So I think most entrepreneurs, they start a company, they learn how to sell, but I don't think anyone really learns how to recruit, lead, and build culture. How do those 3 things come together? And like, why is it such a pain point? Because when I say pain point, if I were to go online right now and I take like 95% of the people that are listening to this right now and go like, what is the biggest pain point in your business? It's either current people or people they need.
Yeah.
Is that true in your world too? Is that true even at the large? Because you work with like major corporations. Is
We work like like right down the middle clients, a $20 million to $200 million client.
I'd
Now,
call that major compared to small business.
we've got multi-billion dollar clients,
Yeah.
but like for some reason, my entrepreneurial side loves the fast growth piece. And that's, kind of when it's hitting the rocket. But to your point, hiring people is the most important thing you do if you want to scale a business. And everybody knows that. And every entrepreneur and every business owner tells me that.
Why do we hate it? Why do we fear
Because
it?
it's hard. It's like, what
Is it hard or we don't understand it?
It's
Do we
both.
not have a system?
Because it consumes a lot of time, and it's like building a muscle. And if you haven't begun to build that muscle, it's just like working out. If you don't go to the gym and you haven't started thinking about hiring process, and you haven't tried to duplicate a hiring process and try to figure out what worked and what didn't, then you're probably not building that muscle. And most people don't. The one question we have, this is called Talent Strategy Index, where we ask questions or self-assessment. And the question, we ask somebody usually in HR, and then we ask the CEO to rate on a scale of 1 to 5, how scalable and repeatable is your hiring process? And it is the lowest rated question that there is. And so for me, I'm fascinated by the fact that people know it's the most important thing that they do, but they don't allocate the time and the resources as though it is the most important thing that they do. I mean, it's good for me because
It's like
that's what
working
I
out.
do.
It's like we know it's a really good
yeah.
idea. We should be doing it.
Yeah.
It's the number one thing we need so we can live a life. I mean, you actually, if you recruit well, you'll live longer.
Yeah.
That's the truth. I never thought about
100%.
that. Like, unless you got a dying illness, I mean, if you're an entrepreneur, you will have lower blood pressure and probably live longer if you figure out recruiting.
Yeah, 100%. Back to your question though, Aerotech taught me the foundation of recruiting.
What did they teach you? Like if you were to like go back in time and go like,
Yeah.
if I were to show it back to my original martial arts, I could do 3 moves that protect myself.
I mean,
like 3 things I know from hockey. What are like, if you had to throw 3 things from Aerotech?
well, I'd say the one thing is they highly effective people. That book was one of the things that they taught as a foundation for recruiting.
Nice. 7 habits. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, and
put that there for you.
I know, it's almost like it was planted there.
That and the Matrix.
I love it. Yeah. I mean, I think, it's the relationship business. I mean, in recruiting, you asked like what we did too. I literally met face to face with people, developed a relationship with them, handed them their paycheck, which that goes a long way, as this was back before ACH, which dates me. But I would go have my contractors, I would recruit them, develop a relationship with them. I'd have lunch with them every once in a while, and then I'd walk and go on the site, my client's site. My clients would see me handing my paychecks to my employees, and then I would have a little conversation with them and leave. So it was about developing relationships, spending the time and effort.
That.
Yeah.
I remember handing the envelopes with their name on. You took time to write their name on it. Tell them good job, great job this week.
Yeah.
Anything you're working on? Wow.
Yeah, great job.
That was a big part of the company.
Back then it was. I mean, this went on for a long time. I mean, we had accounts, like I remember big accounts, and
I forgot about that.
Yeah, like I used to go to U-Haul every week. Towards the end, I'd have other people do it too, and go and drop off checks, and just meet with people about just to make sure their paycheck was good. But it was a really good plant to like stay in front of the customer and remind them that you're taking care of their people and their team. So that was kind of the roots of like where I started. And then we started doing contract to hire for companies and really hiring at all levels. And what I fell in love with was hiring leaders, because when you hire a leader, that's where I felt like I could really positively impact companies. And
Before you get into this, the definition of a leader, and the reason is people listening right now, there's a lot of definitions. So I clarify, I'm a big language guy,
Perfect.
So leader, if you think of that word for a second, what is your Max Hansen definition of a leader in a corporation or a company?
I'd say a leader is somebody that creates more leaders.
Okay.
That's simple.
Someone that can help the company grow and not just do the work themselves.
Right.
Someone that leads others.
Somebody that leads others and creates more leaders.
So it's a multiplier.
It's a multiplier.
It's not, okay. So for me, I'm glad you clarified that, because I would think a leader is someone who can go get the job done. And then if I needed them to later, then maybe they could lead other people. You're talking, can this person lead others? That actually makes a lot of common sense when you say the word leader. Obviously, they lead people. Yeah. But that's not how I was using it. And I promise a lot of people listening to this right now. Have you even thought how off people are on that definition?
Maybe. I mean, I'll get even further. I say this very humbly because it took a while. I took a lot of people helping me figure this out. But we have a model. It's called a leadership model for hiring. Okay. And there's 3 elevated behaviors that we focus on that we think are what the foundation of great leaders are today, and the 3 things that we still focus on and everybody can focus on. I mean, this is what we look for proof points in each role. When you're hiring a leader, Just look at each one of the roles before. You look at how much they've been a relentless learner, how much they developed other people, and how do they drive results. Those
Relentless
three
learner, that means reading the books, going to the events, doing the thing.
and hunger to want to learn, which is different because to me, the opposite of that is a know-it-all. In this day and age, if you want to take a culture down, put a boomer know-it-all in there and have he or she go lead. Everybody would be like, this person. I'm not going to listen to this person tell me how things are done when I know how to do it better and I can figure this all out myself. Then there's developing others. That's another piece to the puzzle. Like you have to know, obviously, and want to make other people better and want to do that, because that takes a lot of time to spend. And then the last piece is driving results. That kind of bonds it together, because I know a lot of great people in this leadership model. We meet them all the time, and these are your B and C players that relentless learners. Like they're learning. Maybe they even show up to masterminds too. They want to lead people, and maybe they can to a certain extent, but for some reason they just don't drive results. And the way you can look at that is every time when you talk to somebody about the companies they've been in, talk to them about like, where was the company when you started, if they were working for somebody else, and where was it when you left, and how many people did you hire and how many people did you fire? Tell me about that. That will tell you exactly who they are, especially how they fire people. I think that's one question that I would say entrepreneurs and people miss all the time. They fall in love with somebody. Ask if somebody's really led and you need them to hold people accountable in your organization, which most people do. In fact, most entrepreneurs, what they need is they need somebody to build processes and systems, because they can come up with a lot of ideas, but they need somebody to organize their ideas and build processes and systems. And then they need somebody to hold people accountable. And part of holding people accountable is firing people. And the way you figure out and it's a negative connotation, so nobody asks it, but that's one of the first questions you should ask a leader.
Ask that?
What's that?
So you got a leader about to bring on a new HR person, new CEO, new VP of sales. I'm now about to bring on a new HR director, new director of ops.
Yeah.
How would you ask me that? So let's say you're the, and I got questions for you.
Yeah, sure.
In a couple seconds about hiring. You ever hire salespeople?
Of course. I'm passionate about hiring salespeople.
Okay, I'm gonna ask you some questions here in a couple seconds. So I want you to answer this for me. You're about to sit down with me. I'm possibly an HR director that I'm bringing on, or director of ops. How do you talk to me about that?
I mean, it wouldn't be the first question, but it would be very early in the conversation. I'd say, hey, so how many people have you hired and how many people have you had to terminate? And they would say, like, they'd be caught off guard because usually people don't ask that question. And then you'd say, well, let's get into the termination side. Tell me about a time when you've had to fire somebody. Like, and they'd say, I had this guy, and then say, no, tell me, like, how did the communication go? How did you have multiple conversations with them? What did you have? And to me, I find out a lot about people and so do our clients when they ask that question. Because you think about it, like, it's
completely pattern interrupt.
How do they treat the person on the way out? I mean, do they have direct conversations? Because most entrepreneurs, and I'm included, I don't really love to have direct conversations. I like to think about, like, crushing and running up the next hill.
Because you're an entrepreneur.
Yeah, and so figuring out to make sure that somebody's going to have direct, honest conversations and people are treated on the way out and they had the right conversations. And then I always ask about the relationships they have with these people that they let go, like whether they still, especially when you cut C-level people, they should still have a relationship with these people they let go. They don't, and every person they fired hates them. Like, that's not the person you want on your team. It's just, food for thought.
Interesting. That's an interesting question. The reason I asked the thing about sales guys, I literally had somebody post this about an hour ago, and I believe everything happens for a reason. What questions do we ask in an interview? Because salespeople can sell. I love salespeople. I get attracted to that they sell me, and I think that they're great. But if they sell me, you get what Patrick Bet-David says. You get a highly ambitious, motivated, highly ambitious, lazy person. Sometimes they can sell well, but they don't produce well. So how do you disseminate, like, finding out someone's really good at sales or they can do the job? Like, what is your salespeople questions? Like, 3 you could ask.
I mean, gosh, narrow it down to 3.
5, 7, 12.
Okay, we'll get into it. So I think,
what does it look
like?
Great
salespeople. Well, first of all, I think great salespeople, just because they can talk well doesn't make them a great salesperson.
Okay.
Figuring out how they find prospects and how their pattern in order to go back to the well and start that process. Because if you think about all the salespeople that haven't worked out, and everybody that is listening to this is probably going to go down this same path. I know I have, because I've hired the wrong salespeople. You're dead in the water when the salesperson runs out of people to call, and then they come to you and they're like,
"Where are my leads?
Where am I? Yeah, how do I find people?" Well,
do you consider them salespeople, people that don't have leads?
Not really. I mean, that's why I think
maybe closers you can call that, but that's not a salesperson.
Yeah, I'd say when it comes to salespeople, I think their natural wiring is very important. Like on a disc, whatever you want to use, but like they have to be dominant and they have to like people naturally. If they don't, they're just at an uphill battle. Like they got to talk to people all day.
Yep.
And then depending on what type of sales role, depending on how much structure you need, they may have to, measure stuff. But I think another question is like, what lead metrics do they pay attention to in order to make sales? Because that's the thing is like the person that's a good salesperson isn't the person that can actually have a conversation like we're having. You're a great salesperson and I'm probably a pretty good salesperson too. But it's the person that figures out what do I need to do on a, hourly, daily basis and a weekly basis to know I'm going to hit my numbers.
So you're saying you'd ask somebody not like, hey, how good are your sales? What have you sold before? So, okay, so give me any given week.
Right. Reverse engineer your activity.
Daily when you're not selling.
Exactly.
When you're not physically closing a deal, collecting a credit card, getting a contract, what are you doing all day?
100%. Yeah.
Okay, that's a great question.
Yeah, because they have to reverse engineer and show you they're willing to put in the work. People that just like to talk to people aren't really, they can be salespeople, but it depends on what you're selling. And what you're selling is probably a little bit more sophisticated.
Yep.
And if it was all about just like talking to people, you could hire anybody. But you need somebody that's going to figure out the effort and the lead metrics. I would say like as soon as you start talking about lead metrics, real salespeople, like they light up and they like know what their lead metrics are. They know the numbers that they want to hit.
How many to talk to generate a lead. And if they don't, they're a rookie salesperson.
Exactly.
What else would you ask?
I mean, I always want to see like somebody that it has a lot of perseverance because you think about what sales role doesn't have a lot of rejection. So
None?
I start asking tell me about a tough time that you've had in your personal life because I want to make sure they've got it there. Because I'm in the belief that there's crossover in both. Like somebody's not great in the office and like shitty at home or vice versa. Like usually somebody that's average is average in their personal life and average in their professional life. So I usually dig in both, and I want to find out how they've overcome things. What's one of the toughest things you've had to overcome in the last year? So I want to understand like what they say, because now I want to make sure that they're vulnerable a little bit too. And then from a professional standpoint, like I always want to know from a sales standpoint, tell me about the toughest sales role you've ever had and tell me about it. And if they can't describe that, how are they going to get through a tough sales position they're going to be in with you? Because most sales positions aren't easy. There are some that are a little bit easier than others, but most aren't. And so you want to know how this person is going to persevere. And then to me, I think I don't like hiring salespeople. It doesn't work for my business model, especially in the professional services, unless they have some proven experience. So then tell me about your experience.
How do you check the proven? Because a lot of people, oh yeah, I did this for this guy and that guy. And I can hear through it, and I could be judgmental sometimes. And I think, okay, well, that's not what they meant by that. How would you test somebody's experience? Do you have any like stuff that's proven?
Yeah, I mean, I think first and foremost, you have to be, kind of direct and aggressive yourself. Like look to see where they worked. There's a thing called LinkedIn. You can go find somebody at that company and nothing's stopping you from reaching out and saying, hey, I just want to verify this guy worked there, guy or gal. How were they good? Give me, up, green light, thumbs up, thumbs down.
Were they great? Exceptional?
Yeah, some people might not respond because they're afraid of HR, but you'll be surprised. Most people, like, especially in the leadership world, like if somebody was the president of a company and I'm kind of like, oh, I don't know anybody and then I don't have references from that, I'll just reach out to the president that's there now and say, hey, this guy that was the president there, 5 years ago prior to you, what do you know about him? Is there anything you can tell me? I want to hire him.
Good.
You know what I mean? I mean, it's so you just need to be like direct. And then typically, so now we kind of get into references on salespeople. I think the best way to do a reference on a salesperson is, first of all, you want somebody that's going to admit that they've struggled or they've failed. So you say, all right, so you worked with, you go through and they're talking about their resume, their experience. So you've worked for John at ABC company. Tell me what John would say that you were working on when you were there. Like what's something that you were improving on or you needed to improve on? If they have nothing, I don't know if you want to hire that person. If they weren't improving on anything, so they give you something. So now you're like, okay, we're now to step one. Step two is when you do the reference, you tell John, hey, I was talking to this candidate and he told me that he was working on X, Y, and Z. Can you tell me more about that? Well, now the guy's like, well, shit, the candidate already told them about his weak points. So now they talk about it. And now you can kind of have this conversation. It's open dialogue. I would say if you can't find a weakness and a salesperson can't talk about it, then I would just stay away from them.
Because a good salesperson wants to get better.
Right.
A real good salesperson, like reading books, because they see this big picture. Like I remember as a kid, I was like shoveling driveways, and I'm like, if I could get better at this, does that make sense?
Yeah, oh,
Like,
yeah.
I can make more money if I can get more. Like I could save. Like I remember making cold calls back in the day. Like I remember like going online. I mean, I made cold calls back in the day when I used index cards. Do you use index cards in a little box?
I had a little box of index cards. Yeah,
little box of index cards, and I'd have like
we
I'd
called
have two
them tickler
boxes.
cards.
Yeah, I have like yellow if they were like good, green was go, and then I'd switch the card if they were going to be like a sale to follow up. I'd have an orange box of cards right here.
Was this what were you selling?
This is direct sales back in the day. I was selling selling like legal services. It wasn't prepaid legal. It was not legal services. It was health and I was selling a part to a major medical policy. So I was in college and I was selling a piece of insurance that went along with your insurance so you could raise your deductible and move your deductible up and save hundreds of dollars a month on your insurance to entrepreneurs. Then you'd pay like $30, $40 a month. I'd get a three years in advance commission. And then I'd add other parts to their policy. So I was a way for they could lower the price of their insurance by me adding other parts to their insurance.
Yeah, it's kind of like Aflac, I think, these days.
Kind of like before Aflac, before the duck came out. I was selling that. So I'd raise their deductible, blah, blah, blah. I'd call companies. I'd sell hundreds of them in one spot. But that was my little technique, and I wanted to get better at that technique. And I remember reading books on like how to be better with my index cards. So so that's one thing. Any last things? I just wanted to have one last thing, because a lot of people here. And do you help with this? Because I might know some people here that are looking for high level
VP of sales and above. So chief revenue officers, VP of sales. I got a couple of those going right now.
How does somebody reach out right off the bat?
YScouts.com. Okay. They can get a hold of me there. My LinkedIn's pretty active, but YScouts.com.
YScouts. Okay, we'll put your LinkedIn on as well. So make it work. Okay, cool. Anything else salespeople wise? That's good.
No, I mean, again, I'm because I was struggled to find good salespeople because I was the salesperson.
Not anymore.
Yeah, not anymore. I honestly think I use assessments in the grand scheme of things for leadership roles because these people are usually they've proven they've got experience that we can kind of reference. When it comes in that we look at it as 10 to 15% of the picture. So if you want to use a Colby, which is probably isn't the best for salespeople necessarily, or like a TTI or DISC profile or a predictive index, I think those for salespeople actually are pretty important. You have to know that they're like if you're using a DISC, you have to know they're
90-90 and a 98i.
That's what I am too.
Or maybe 100.
Are we shocked?
I'm like 100. I'm 100 in influence and 98 or 99 in dominance.
Okay, so you're a little higher in influence. I'm just higher D than I am in I, but it's the same thing. Same.
And I don't have the other two.
Yeah, I have nothing in the other two. Yeah,
my wife's the other two, and high I and D.
Yeah. See, I would hire you as a salesperson in a second. Yeah,
and that's what I should do. That's perfect.
Yeah, no, I mean you got to model it. Like you got to go find 25 years ago.
All right, so outside of salespeople, like that was what did you first got started with the aerospace stuff, and then you moved on to salespeople, or?
I first got started when I was at Aerotech. I did telecom recruiting, which was literally. This makes me feel so old. Yeah. So
what is it?
Back in the day, the internet.
You don't get to talk about this much.
No,
it's
no,
fun,
no.
isn't
I'm
it?
like kind of remember back. Yeah. So back in the day,
your wife's gonna go. You're gonna go home, and you're gonna be like 25 years younger.
Yeah. Back in the day, there was a race, believe it or not, for the phone company was racing the cable company to create the internet. Yep. So at the time, we were hiring the technicians that were coming from other cities, and they were like kind of nomadic
like MCI
people.
Type stuff.
Yeah, they like in a what do they call those? Those pops, like an AT&T like pop. The buildings that have no windows that have all the equipment in. They still have them. And so we'd hire the technicians that would wire those up and build those because the phone company was racing Cox to put in coax for the internet. They both won. Obviously, you get your internet from both. But that's where I started. It was in telecom, hiring kind of the technician level. But then I got into, when I started my own company, we did a lot of contract to hire, and a lot of it was manufacturing related. Okay. Our first client ever was BOC Gases, which was like a international like gases company as a lab tech. It was the first hire I ever made on my own. So that's where I kind of started, and then we kind of climbed. Yeah, I mean, it was another manufacturing plant. So all the semiconductor plants in Arizona, they all had tons of gases going through those places. And so somebody has to supply the gas. That was one of the companies that we started to work with. It was the first company my first client actually.
Very cool. So that's then, and that's how you got to this point.
Yeah.
So we're past fax machines. You don't use fax anymore, do you?
We didn't know back when I first started. That's what I was going to say. We did fax resumes. That's how
Do you remember sending a fax to companies?
Oh yeah.
Hey, you look and they're come out of the machine.
We used to white out the contact information of the candidate and fax a resume, and they timestamp it. It was like they can't believe
crazy. So we're past that now. What is so? If the biggest issue today is still the same feeling you get, because I'm telling you, man, I would tell you if you walk up with a needle, or you say to somebody and like, hey, we're gonna do some injections right now, or you walk up and tell people they can do public speaking. A needle meaning like I don't know, like nobody likes getting IV. Nobody wants the, even though I love IVs, nobody wants the needle to go in. You do IVs?
Yeah.
I freaking love them.
I love them. Yeah.
And
I got
you
good
do all that
veins
stuff.
for
I have great
IVs.
veins too. So,
Yeah. See, you're very
good veins. So, but if you walk up with like a knife, a needle, and you walk up like, hey, we're going to spend the next year hiring, and people look at you like this is crazy. Like, has it become more complicated? Or has it become easier? Like, what's going on these days? Well, hey guys, I want to take a quick opportunity right now and remind you that Average Sucks is not just an incredible podcast. It is a way of life. It is a way of being, and the title of my best-selling book that shows you step by step. I literally walk through exactly how in my life and in the lives of our incredible students, I showed them how to live an above average life, whether it's in your business, whether it's with your finance, with your health, any area of your life that you're looking to scream those words, average sucks, get to the next level, get out of your box in life. This book will show you exactly how to do it. Get your copy at averagesucks.com or Amazon or wherever books are sold. Get your copy right away and get out there and start living a life that screams average sucks. Get the book.
I think it's becoming way more complicated. So this is such, I mean, we could talk so long about this. I'm trying to figure out how to like put this into.
This is great.
Yeah. So
you don't need to, you're doing great.
It's becoming so much more complicated. So what happened back in the day, you went back to the monster days. So my thing about hiring was we had hired
Monster's jobbing now, right?
Yeah. No, monster jobbing went out of his. But so job boards, basically digital job boards, in my opinion, were one of the big steps to break the hiring process. So what I mean by that is you think about it, is back in the day, you used to run an ad in the newspaper and you used to have to you pay for every letter and line.
I remember picking those things.
Yeah. So you would write perfect. So, people would write exactly what they need. And then all of a sudden the job boards came out, you could write whatever you want. You had all this space. So then what happened was people would basically post jobs and then it set up candidates. They made it easier for candidates to apply. Well, candidates started rewriting their resumes because they knew that there was a keyword match. So it became this gamification of how do I get to the top of the stack? So you're telling me
people will literally rewrite, looking for people that are healthy and athletic, and then you'd put down, I used to work for an athletic company.
100%. 60% of people, if you go look at the statistics, go Google statistics on resumes that are falsified. 60% of resumes are falsified. So hang with me here. So that started happening. So then a person could apply to 500 jobs in one day. So now
with 400 different keywords.
Exactly, and copy and paste the job description. Maybe put it on the third, on the third page of the resume. And if the person didn't look, that's the reason why they're number one on the on the list. So that started happening, and then in the United States in particular, because I know I've worked with other companies that aren't in the United States, is people obviously will lie in interviews more so than any other country for the most part. I mean, there's probably other countries that are similar, but they will embellish. We have taught our basically society to embellish what they can do in order to get a job. So you have to think about that. The people are trying to feed their families.
Don't they realize they actually have to produce when they show up?
Not always. So that's what so you're going down the road exactly that I went down. So after hiring these 50,000 people and seeing this go on at companies, I was so disappointed that everybody has a version of the story where they post a job, the person submits their resume, they meet, the person's perfect, they hire them, they get there and they can't do it, and then they fire them, and then all of a sudden the employer that fired them is the bad guy because they fired this person who basically lied, but nobody really admits that they lied. They're just now the victim because they get fired. So I saw this over and over, and that's the pattern I wanted to change. So that's when we started YScouts as the first purpose-based leadership search firm on the planet, and we go about things with a different process. And the other thing that's happening right now is you think about in this day and age too, with 60% of resumes are incorrect. Now you have every single candidate that knows how to use AI to rewrite their resume with your job description, and then they send it right back to you. So if you're an employer and you don't have some structured process to figure out how to break through this bullshit game of people gamifying and rewriting their resume, you don't even stand a chance. So that's the reality of what's going on right now. And so that's what I'm super passionate about. And, we wrote a book, Hiring on Purpose, and we published it in 2018. very sound, efficient process to, we don't believe in posting jobs. So when we work for our clients, we would never post a job. Like that's not even on our
So if you
radar.
don't post a job, what do you do?
We target everybody on a proactive, targeted basis.
So you reach out to people that are currently working.
Yeah. And we reach out to them.
That's recruiting.
That's recruiting. Yeah.
The other thing
That's
is
the only thing we
fishing,
do.
maybe?
Yeah, I don't
What
even,
would you call, what would you, like my opinion is if you're looking for a job in a high level person and you're
nobody's on job. The best people aren't on job boards.
I mean, I can't imagine where I would ever need that. I'd call you. I'd be like, hey, who do you know?
Yeah.
Like I didn't go.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, who do you know?
That'd be a good strategy.
Like, who do you know? Or like, I'm looking for someone. So you go to LinkedIn or wherever, and you actively look for somebody that's doing it currently already, that's not currently lying because they posted the truth, because you don't start lying until you need something.
Yeah. So
you're not lying on your LinkedIn to start with.
The right sequence, we're actually building a piece of technology right now that kind of automates it. So the right sequence is, as an employee, you have to get clear on what you're looking for. You have to define the success outcomes and key responsibilities for the role and how you're going to measure it. Now, I won't get too technical, but
I can get geeky with this right now.
Yeah,
so let's
totally.
Let's say I'm looking for. If I said I need a teammate, what's the first thing you'd ask me?
I'd say, what do you want them to accomplish in the next 12 months?
Okay, that's.
And then we would get clear on.
I would never think that. I know you would tell me that it makes sense.
Yeah.
I would be like, no, I just need them to do this thing, and I'm only thinking like a week in advance.
Yeah.
And I hire them, and then I'm like, second week.
Actually, most people think further in advance than a year. They don't focus on, because what the reality of it is, even in a C-level role, like we're working on a CEO for $1 billion company right now, and it's a construction company in Louisiana, and even then, what we focus on is the next 12 months, what this person needs to do in order to be successful. And the trick is to actually concentrate down and figure out what those 3 things are and the corresponding key responsibilities, and then how you're going to measure it. And you make sure you go find somebody that can do those things, because if they can't do those first things, even a $1 billion company, you'd start talking about a small company. If they can't be successful in that first year, I promise you they're not going to be successful after that. You know what I mean?
So
they won't be around after that.
The year, or we hired them for the year with the potential to grow. We hired them with a 5 year. I've never thought it. I'm asking questions.
No, I know this is great.
I've never ever.
I know this. It seems so limiting, but no, if you can nail that year, that person, 90-something%, they're going to be successful. If you can't nail that year, you're screwed.
So I'm looking for somebody like let's say it's right now. I don't know. Let's just call it the summer, and then I want it till next summer. I'm looking for somebody by next summer. This is what they did. If it winds up working after that, that's great.
Yeah.
Am I thinking a year? Because if this is so unique.
Yeah.
Because I'm picturing this person is going to be at my funeral. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're going to be 900 years from now. They're going to be like, I'm helping their grandkids out. Like, that's not where we get.
I mean, so in the way we do it, we understand the soft skills of the business, which are half the equation. Okay. You might get somebody that fits in the soft skills. And then we use a leadership model that I spoke about earlier. We want to make sure that they're a good leader. And then if they can do the things in that first year and they're good at it and it's stuff that they want to do, which is important, because you got an A player that can do those things in that first 12-month window. We call them success outcomes. Mm-hmm. But if they don't want to do it, then you don't want them in there. You know what I mean? Because people can be good at something and not want to do it. So you got to find somebody that is good at doing it. They have experience and done it before, and it's something that they want to do.
Got it.
So, I mean, I'm oversimplifying a little bit.
No, you're not though. Just the idea alone, I think one of the big takeaways from this, and I'll tell you, everyone, if you're watching this either online or you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple, whatever it is you're watching this, A, subscribe. But B, what I'd love you to do right now is let us know in the comments down below, like some of these words that are big that Max is covering, because one of the big things is what do you want him to do in a year is really big. And in the first year. And second thing, the biggest thing I heard you say today is a leader is not someone that can get things done. A leader is someone that can actually develop other people and actually give you life at some point.
Yeah, 100%.
That's big. So you're using AI now, you said, right?
100%, yeah.
Okay, and I know the word excites people or scares people. That's smile. Yeah. You're one of the guys that likes
excited.
You're excited.
I can't be more excited.
How is, without giving away all the trade secrets, because I know you got some stuff that's what we call proprietary towards your company.
I'll share everything, because the execution of it's the hardest thing.
That's the gangster part. Yeah. Do tell.
I mean, I'm more excited about what we're doing with AI. It's called Scout Path. It's a platform we use.
I love the word scout too.
So we built it for ourselves and we use it with all our clients. And then once I start building it, and now I see how good it can be. Now we are building it so other people can use it in lieu of us. And so our first product is the first module. It's called rolevisioning.com. It's actually a site built now. You can actually go test it. But by the time people listen to this, probably be good. But so that's out. So basically We have made it so you just have to have a conversation with this AI bot and then ask you to queue up other people that you want involved in your business. It sends them, they have the same conversation, and then it compiles an opportunity profile, which is our version of a job description. From there, all the AI downstream from how we're able to pull that information helps you put together an interview guide, interview scoring matrix, and then it will help you identify the ideal candidate profile, because that's another piece you need. Is like you need to know what they're going to achieve, and then you need to know what the ideal candidate profile looks like. And then you need to know the search strategy of where these people exist. At least in our world, we want to do everything outbound. We want to go find the best people. So once we have those three things, everything can be, kind of AI can help craft the rest of it. It's really good at critical thinking. I'd say the one thing I will share that's a takeaway for everybody right now is in interviewing, take any transcript from your interview, tell AI, give it to AI and say, what was not talked about but implied in this conversation? It will do the critical thinking and tell you shit that you'll be like, holy crap.
Give an example.
I mean, it just, so there, you and I could have a meeting with, anybody in
With
here.
Chip.
With Chip. Okay. We meet with Chip. And we talk with Chip and we're trying to figure out how to upgrade this podcast gear, which is freaking amazing, by the way. So we have Chip and he, tells us, and you and I could evaluate the transcript a million times, like manually, and figure out like, all right, what could we do different? Like where could we help Chip like on the next step? Like what would we do? Well, with AI, it critically thinks it'll give you like 8 things. So 2 of them probably you'll throw out, but 6 of them are like, holy shit, that's exactly, yeah. Or you would have, but it would have taken you like 4 hours to think of it. And we would have never spent 4 hours evaluating the conversation. So that just little, that's a little one, but even that for salespeople, because think about it, if your sales is similar to recruiting, but for anybody selling anything out there, you can use that prompt. What was implied, what was not talked about, what implied in this conversation.
What was not talked, and write this down too, again, in the comments.
What was not talked about was implied, because
what was not talked about but was implied.
So then what it gives you is like, you follow up with an email and you're like, hey, by the way, it was great to meet with you today. We're excited to work with you on X, Y, and Z. The next time we meet, I've been thinking about our conversation. I think we should talk about, like, you talk about the 2 or 3 things that AI helped you prompt from the conversation, because that person's head, they're like, holy shit. Because as you're a good salesperson, you're asking questions. Now you have nuggets. So now the person's like, shit. Because you literally have critical things that are like the next things that they would have talked about. So they're helping me solve this puzzle. So you're going to be the first salesperson or whatever you're selling, they call back, because you have taken AI to help you critically think of the most important things to talk about next.
And then you also got a tough conversation out of it. You broke the pattern of the act is over. Do you know what I'm saying? We're actually having the real talk with a real person about real things.
Yeah.
Not about just the same things we always talk about. You took it a step further. Onion just got pulled back.
Oh yeah. You don't even, the AI is so good. Like in our app that we're building, we have it where it is, it's reading what you're saying, how you're saying it, sentiment, eye contact, like what's going on. Eye contact's good.
It's taking your Zoom.
Yeah, because you don't want a person like reading something else, because they could be taking that conversation live and streaming it to give them information to answer the questions. So like, I don't want to get people too freaked out, but like, so all this is kind of built in, but this technology is like, you could find this stuff, you could go, find this stuff on any platform and figure it out. But there is so much that it's doing on the hiring side that's going to be positive. But again, if you're an entrepreneur, you're a business owner, and you're not thinking about this already, you're already behind the 8 ball, because think about every candidate out there is using AI to help them. I saw a quote the other day that said, I applied for 500 jobs today and rewrote my resume for every single one of them, said every 25-year-old person in tech right now. So these kids are able to write an algorithm for themselves through AI to basically go apply to all these jobs and rewrite their resume for them.
To make you satisfied with them.
Yeah.
And at least get them in the door. It's even making it harder so it's not lying. It's rapport.
I'd
actually,
say it's
bullshit.
Borderline BS. Because they'd say rewrite my resume to basically to stand out for this job description. So it is. It's a game that like, kind of nobody's winning. The thing that I would say, the way you get around that, and from a philosophy standpoint, is you get clear on what you're looking for. That's not what you post out there. Like you might have to post, you might not have the resources like we have to reach out to everybody. But at the very least, think about this: interrupt the pattern of like, don't take all the like, this is what I'm looking for in like basically the blueprint of like exactly what you need in this role. Post something that like is a flavor of that, but withhold some of that and wait till you get the person in the interview. Or if you don't have the resources even to interview people, tell them this is what I'm looking for. Please respond and tell me why you'd be a good fit based on what I've already told you.
Halfway down. So it's like, remember Tucker Max? You know Tucker Max?
Oh yeah,
Tucker,
he wrote he owns Scribe.
He owned Scribe back in the day.
That's who wrote my book.
Yeah, he worked with me on mine too. And then he said to me, he was writing an ad. You write an ad not for what you want; it's what a day in the life would be like for them. And he actually taught me that. I take that strategy. Like, imagine waking up every day. This is how we eat.
Yeah.
Getting up, going to a job that does this and this. What I'm hearing you say is you'd start that and you'd stop. If this excites you at this point, call me. I'll give you the rest of the story.
Yeah, or send me something.
Yeah.
So you prompt them to send you something.
They got to make a move.
Because the 95% of people that are just going to bullshit their resume and send it in, they don't respond. And then you're now left with the 5% you wanted to talk to in the first place anyway, because they actually responded and they're thinking through how they can add value to your business already. So that's one way of like shortcutting this game of, because if you're just letting people rewrite your job description with their resume, like how do you know who's good? I think most hiring tech, and the reason why I've researched this a lot is I'm spending a lot of money building this piece of technology, and I want to make sure I'm not wasting it. When I start looking at hiring tech out there, most of the hiring tech out there, a lot of it, probably 80-90% of it, from my perspective, is written from like strapping rockets onto bad hiring philosophy and hiring techniques. Meaning, most of these sites are just like, all right, how can we take your job posting, put it in more places, get more candidates, and then stack rank those candidates already. But those candidates are rewriting their resume with your job description, and then they're stack ranking.
So we have a bunch of garbage potentials.
100%. You're back to like square one.
Okay, so all those ZipRecruiters.
And you might get lucky and find somebody every once in a while, and that's what kind of keeps people going back. But for the most part, if you want to build, everybody wants to hire the best people, right? You're never going to find the best people by posting jobs in more places, in my opinion. If you're hiring maybe people for a call center, that's what you do, and then you sift through them and you find the best out of those people. But we hire, leadership roles.
Very specific leadership roles. So how do you transfer? You talked about, before we got started, about transferring the culture of a company. You love leadership, you love culture. Yeah. What was the third thing you said? Leadership. I think you said culture, leadership, and there's a third thing I believe you
hiring
said. Process.
Yeah.
When you're developing a culture, how do you find a culture fit with somebody? Like I think culture fit. Oh, I like them. They seem like a nice person. Oh, they like music. I like music. They like hockey. I like, synchronicity. I look for like something to make me believe like, oh, dude, Max, he said this earlier. He mentioned that you drank out of the Stanley Cup earlier, which you talked about prior, which I love. I must love Max. He's great. And I think about that. Yeah. So how do you figure out culture? Like that's a tough one. Do they have to become part of the culture? Do they already think as part of the culture?
Yeah.
Is that a bullshit concept, culture, before someone comes in? Like when does somebody, because in our culture here, like we're very direct. We're very much like to the point. We say it like it is. I mean, our culture here is very crazy, chaotic, and we enjoy that in a lot of ways. It's part of what we do. And we like this fast pace. We like all that. Like we're just the way we work, and it's just what we are. I don't know until they get in. Like how do we know when someone's a culture fit? It's like marriage. It's like dating.
It is. I mean, there's a lot of definitions for culture.
Okay.
I think an easy one for
culture is somebody easy to deal with that fits in with what we do. They don't have to change who I am to be around them.
Yeah. So I would say you have to think about this as like, if you really want the quick, like easy definition, it's like how we get shit done around here.
Yes.
That's one thing. Or it's the collection of behaviors that we recognize as
positive. So they're two different things?
No, they're the same thing. Just one's an easier, like if you had to drop the gloves and be like, what's our culture? What's how shit gets done around here when we get stressed out? That's our culture.
Yeah.
And will they be able to deal with me when I'm crabby and I need to get shit done? So that's one way.
That's this Tony Soprano way.
That's Tony Soprano.
That's
yeah.
Look at that.
Exactly.
What's the other way? What's that more?
The other
what's
way,
a more sophisticated MIT way?
Purpose and values. Like you got to figure out like, what's unique about your culture. But I think when you're the company and when you're evaluating people, you have to think about this. You have to think about who we really are right now. Mm-hmm. Like let's and take an honest look at that. And then you also have to have this idea of who you want to become as a culture.
Oh, okay.
Because you want to hire, the only way to change a culture is two ways. You can do it by brute force, by giving people kudos for doing the things that you want them to do, and then obviously booking and then terminating people for not doing things that you want, or telling them, kind of the carrot stick. Or you can hire the people that are like more like the culture you want to become. So you want to figure out who you truly are. Like, and a lot of people do it by values, but I even say values are just words until you give them specific behaviors.
Yes.
And so you figure out what those specific behaviors are. And then when you go to the best way to find out how somebody is, so this is what we do. This is the secret sauce that I'm sharing with everybody. It's in our book, but is the best way to interview for culture is not to talk about professional, like what they can do for you. The first thing you get into is what do you care about most? You talk about them. And when you talk about them and focus on them first, it's like taking off a mask. Like if we get in an interview and we both have masks on, which we don't because we know each other, and we sat in the back of the room and had a great time. And but so you get in an interview, you have a mask on. My job to get to know you, to make sure you're going to fit into my culture, is we got to get the mask off.
Show me
first.
what that looks like. Let's pretend. I walk in, shake my
Yeah,
hand.
yeah.
Let's act
Yeah,
this out.
sure. So-
I know it's been a minute since you've done this exact thing, but you've done it a million times.
I've done it a million times.
So I sit down. I'm sitting there with my resume here, and or my suit on, and I'm sitting here. I got my briefcase, attaché is the old word back in the day, on the floor, and I sit down. And what do you say?
Yeah, I say, hey, it's great to meet you. Now, we have a distinct advantage because usually we don't tell them what the role of the company is, and we get in this first conversation. Sure. So they come in like, this is different. And they're
at YScouts right now. They're not in the company itself, or are you working inside the company?
We're working with candidates that are for our clients. So
you're in Microsoft now or something.
Let's say they do. Okay, let's play this out. So say I know you work at Superhuman.
Human Communications Institute right here, right?
Yeah. So, but your job as the interviewer is to then show that you're, show them that you're a human. Like maybe talk about your family, maybe talk about like, the ride into work or like something happened, and then just say, hey, all right, this is going to be a little bit different. I really want to get to know you first. So you really want to focus, let them know that you're getting to let them know. I already
go down. I already shrank.
Yeah. Like, and they're like, okay, shit, what's next? And be like, all right, I know this is going to be a little weird, but what do you most care about? They're going to say, okay. So what they're going to say.
Well, I'd say my family and, making sure that, the family's doing well. My kids are doing well. And
usually they say this though, because you're kind of an open book. Usually they go personally or professionally, and you say both. And they're like, fuck. And so then they tell you everything that you would want to know, that you could try to plan out and put all these different questions, all the stuff you want to know. But instead what we typically do is they walk in and they're like, so tell me, so they either start talking about what you want from them. Like, you read the job description, right? Well, tell me about your resume. So like you've already gone off the edge. You've already talking about, now you're in this game of gamification. Now you tell me what you can do in order to get the job on this resume. You got to break them down. You got to get them like, what do you most care about? What's a value you'd never compromise? Like what's the hardest thing you've been through in the last year? You just got to start asking questions.
It's not even a series of just questions that are the questions, but it's really the why you're asking them, and in the order, and in the, it's not the knockout punch. It's not like, so what kind of income are you accustomed to making? It's I've got to get you it's like the Chris Voss stuff. It's
100%.
It's take the resistance down. Like, if you're okay with this, I don't want to make this a standard interview. 100%. That's the kind of thing I say.
Exactly.
I don't want to make this a standard interview. Just relax. I want to get to know you because you're investing a big thing called your life and your time here. So let's just figure out if we even like each other. And if not, we can maybe make recommendations. You're saying that stuff.
100%. And most people are so much in a hurry that they think they need to start asking about, like, what have you done that, in your past that is going to make you think is going to make me think you can do this stuff. But when you do that, it depends on what role it is, but when you do that, it's actually taking longer because you're having to go through this BS gamification process. Really, if you stick to the script of really getting to know somebody, you will figure out if like they're the type of person that you want to work with, especially if it's somebody you have to spend a lot of time with. I mean, it's like as simple as this. If I was going to come in and work with you at your company, first thing you want to know is like, you're going to want to actually have conversations with me and spend time
regularly.
With me. Yeah. So that's where we start. And I have found that the best thing, if you have a hard time with this, is to be vulnerable first. That's the only way, because you want them to be vulnerable and tell you like what,
So how do you go be vulnerable first?
You start telling them about, maybe, I dropped my son off at school today, and, he's been sick and he's not wanted to go to school, and it's been a little tough, but it's kind of part of life. And so anyway, I've got, 5 kids, and
I get it, man. My daughter wasn't feeling good yesterday.
Yeah. So you talk about that, and then you're like, all right, let's, how about you? So what do you most care? You know what I mean? And you get them in this rhythm, and then you want to ride it out.
No wonder nobody likes recruiting and doing this stuff, because we're having a conversation with bullshit, and then we get lied to and we get mad at people. But we're allowing that.
Or allowing it. We're actually inviting it.
We are asking people to lie to us because we're not having a real conversation. They're insecure. We're not even helping them feel comfortable.
Yeah.
So our job is, if we bring them in and we make this, like dating. I mean, it's like if you make someone comfortable, you have a better chance of getting to know them and building a connection and finding out who they really are.
100%. In fact, when I started to uncover this after making a lot of hires and seeing like a lot of stuff.
You did it the wrong way for a while, right?
Oh, yeah. Okay. I watched people do it the wrong way for a long time.
Okay.
So one of the things that I uncovered along the way, we had a big client, and he was from Spain, this big company called Abengoa. They bought all the power here for SRP and APS, and then they sold it back to them after we built a bunch of solar farms. But so that one of their execs comes to town, he's a thick Spanish accent, and he says, you needed to hire an accountant. So we line him up 3 people, and like, we're just starting this relationship. And I mean, this ended up being a multi-million-dollar relationship for us. So I meet him, I'm like, what'd you think of the candidates? And he's like, why do these people lie about what they can do? And like, it was at that moment, I had already been kind of thinking about this and studying it. I realized that this is more of a United States problem than it is anything else. He's from Spain. They don't do that in Spain. And interesting enough,
they tell the truth there.
It's harder to fire somebody in Spain. Employees have a lot more rights in Spain than they do here. So you would think that they would have more reason to kind of embellish and get jobs, because it's harder to get them out of their jobs. But that was one of the data points of many that I started to realize that, to your point, and this is when I kind of changed. We were doing very well. So it took me that long, after hiring 50,000 people, to realize that I was playing the victim. I was like, these people lie in resumes, or on interviews, these people suck. And then it was at that time, it was like, we are the hiring managers. We determine the process. So like, we should be responsible for how the process goes. We can't just blame people for lying in interviews. So that wasn't something I went through probably about 2011, 12. And then that's when we started building YScouts with a different process. So people couldn't do that.
So basically, the purpose of your company is you find the right people, and if you interview and hire correctly, leadership is easier.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. If you interview and hire correctly, the only conversation you need to have to manage somebody is ask them on a regular basis, on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you think you're doing in your role? And so they'll tell you, most normal people, especially if it's early on, the first month, they're not going to tell you a 10. Otherwise, you probably have a different conversation you need to have. But they'll say, like, you hired me for your VP of sales. You'd ask me the first, maybe 3 weeks in, you asked me that question. And then you want to continue to ask that question, because if you have the right person, as long as I don't think as the employee, I'm doing a better job than you think you're doing, then everything's going to go good, because I know how to do my job. You hired me. But as soon as you quit having that conversation of having me explain to you on how I think I'm doing in my role, that's when things get off the rocker. And then as soon as we don't have that conversation for a while, and then all of a sudden you're pissed because I'm not hitting my sales numbers, and I still think I'm a badass salesperson, but you're like, fuck, I haven't had this conversation. Then one day you have to have a hard conversation with me, and then I'm pissed, and then we're, we get kind of mad. In fact, this might not be PC.
This is really good.
This might not be PC, but like,
we'll probably leave
think
it in
about, I don't think about people when they go postal. So this, I don't know how I just went to this, but when people go postal, go research this. It's because this person's worked for the Postal Service for like 10 years. And for 2 years, nobody's ever talked to them about how they're doing in their role. And then one day they get fired. And then they shoot everybody. Well, they shoot everybody because they are caught off guard, and they're pissed because nobody's talked to them. Now, this is a very extreme example. I digress for sure. But to me, if you hire the right person, all you have to do is ask them on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you think you're doing in your role? They'll tell you a 7 or 8. You say, what's in the gap? They describe what's in the gap, and then you say, are you open to some feedback? And so if there's something that they didn't talk about in the gap, if everything's the same, then you'd be like, hey, I agree with you. Most of the time it's not. So you say, are you open to my feedback? You just continue to do that loop until the end of time. Even the most senior level people, as long as we're on the same page, if I work for you, as long as I'm doing my job, and when you ask me how I think I'm doing in my role, and I give you the number, you got to ask for the number.
So you're expecting like a 7 or 8, right?
Yeah, 7 or 8. Yeah,
7 or 8, and I really want to figure out this leads thing, and I really want to figure out this funnel, and I really want to figure out how to hire the right person. You want to hear that. You don't want to hear it's great, everything's perfect.
Yeah, I am a 9. Well, really tell me about how you're a 9. I mean, if they tell you they're a 9 once, then you can be like, well, are you open to my feedback? Because I think
you're a 4.
Yeah. So then you have a conversation. Actually, so most normal people, when you have this conversation, that's the only one you need to have. There's some people out there that will manipulate it and they're the victim and all this. Well, the conversation, the next conversation you have with that one, or when it gets to that point, is you say, on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you think I think you're doing in your role?
Okay, so two questions. Again, post these online. This is really good. I never thought about this today.
This second one's
right here to this camera, right? Go ahead. What are the questions?
On a scale of 1 to 10, how do you think you're doing in your role? They will give you a number and you ask what's in the gap. And then once they describe what's in the gap, it simply opens you up for a feedback loop. And you say, are you open to my feedback? They always say yes because they just give themselves feedback. And then you give them the feedback and then you repeat that cycle. That's all you have to do to lead people.
And what's the other question? How do you think?
So if you're having problems with that and somebody's, fidgeting and they're
I'm a 10.
Yeah. So that rarely happens. But then the next time you say on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you think I think you're doing in your role? Because if you're the leader, that's the only thing that should matter. And obviously they can't manipulate how you think you're doing.
And then what if they say a 7? So let's just say you thought a 9 and I think a 7. Now what?
So you
think you're a 9. You're just like, oh yeah, I'm doing great. I'm a 9. Everything's great. We're making millions. And I'm like,
oh, well,
you think, but based on what you think, Michael, because your standards are so high,
you don't even have to tell them it's a 7. You just have to say, are you open to my feedback?
No. What if they say a 7? Because you asked them.
Oh, and they say 7, but they're really a 9?
No, reverse.
Okay.
So what if they acted like they're a 9 and everything's great? Me, great. Well, how do you think I think you're doing? Because in my world, like the never good enough thing that I teach average sucks. They think, you probably think I'm a 6. I think I'm a 9. How do we deal with that? Because
you talk about the things that you disagree with on your number. Like it doesn't even matter what your number is, but if they say a 9, you better be very vocal about the things that are you open to some feedback? Well, I think that you're not hitting your numbers. I think that you could do a lot better in this area. I think you do a lot better in this. I see you're missing this goal. I see your interactions are not on par with this. So if you bring all that stuff up, the next time you ask, they're probably not going to think they're a 9. If they are,
6, and they'll start getting honest.
Yeah,
and it's really a 9 compared to what?
Exactly.
Yeah. That's the real question. Like someone says, oh, I'm doing great financially. Yeah, compared to what? Like I ask people like, hey, how good are you at sales? Like, oh, I'm a 12. Well, compared to Bobby Axelrod in billions, how good are you? Well, I'm a 2. Yeah. Well, that's
what I found interesting. And I have a person on my team that's a high performer. Like this works so good with high performers. She's so critical on herself. Like, so she'll say, 6 or 7 and she's crushing it. I'm like, all right. And then, that's a better problem to have is you're like, all right, let's not be so hard on ourselves. Like we've got some wins that we can celebrate and we can focus on the positive and like, let's go. So that's an easier conversation than trying to back somebody off a 9. If you have to back somebody off a 9, then that's why the next more powerful conversation that you should never have to have is on a scale of 1 to 10. How do you think I think you're doing in your role? Because like if they're now trying to manipulate how you think you're doing in your role and they report to you, you run the business, then you just don't have enough balls to like tell them to get the fuck out of there.
Exactly. Or you could say, well, I think you're a 7. Okay, great. Well, which number is it? Is it 7 or 9? Which numbers will make the company grow more?
Right. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really good.
Yeah, I mean, this has been something.
Is this in your book?
No.
Next book.
This conversation, it's so funny. When we place people at high level, big roles. When I talk to I always do an onboarding call. Like usually my team crushes it. I get put back on the phone with the CEO of the company. And now the COO is starting, their new COO. That's the advice I give. I said, now that this is the right person, right? Yeah. Now you have to make sure that you just stay on the same page, that they and you stay on the same page of how they think they're doing in their role. This is the conversation you need to have. I repeat myself on this all the time, and it works so well. And people forget.
I'm going to implement this right away.
You should. And
I'm going to teach them that I'm going to do it.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I'm actually not going to catch them off guard. I'm going to say I'm going to ask this question from time to time.
Well, they will love it. They will know it's
I'd love people walking around saying 7. Here's what I'm working on.
Exactly. Yeah. People, the A performers will love it. A players love this because that's why they work hard. It's like for their own pride to start. If you don't have your own pride, you don't have anything. You think I'm only here because of what you think of me? You know what I mean? Like if I'm not here because of what you
think of you.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's what we're leveraging is like, hey, what do I think of you? So
this is really good. I had a gentleman.
Or what do I think about myself?
This is good because I had a gentleman on the show he was talking about teams, and he said he took salespeople and he said like everybody lists in the Slack channel like what percentage closing they're at right now. And everybody 10%, 15%, 80%, 40%. He goes, everybody put it in there, what percentage they're at currently. It's an interesting thing to vote publicly do. Then he said, very simply, go below and hit reply how often you work on your sales skills and how often you take training.
Wow.
Well, the person at 10% was taking training maybe once a month. The person at 20% maybe once a week. And all the way up to 60 to 80%, they were doing it daily.
Wow.
And what he was realizing is
that.
the one that wanted to get better was doing better. And it was never enough. So the people that did well were working on themselves more because they just had that thing inside themselves. Like high performers, good is not good enough.
Oh yeah.
It's that. It's the good. It's
Yes.
good to great, but it's not. But it's probably on here somewhere. Good
Yeah,
to
I
great.
like Mindset too. That's one of my favorite books.
Great,
too.
isn't it?
That's probably my number one.
Have
favorite
you
book.
read? Was a slow brain, a fast brain, something? It's like big brain, little brain.
Oh, yeah.
A small brain, fast brain,
Yeah,
for the
I know what
unconscious
you're
mind.
talking about. Yeah,
Such
I
a
haven't
good
read
book.
that.
I can't think remember the name of it. Someone will post it down below. They'll comment.
You
on
know,
it.
another thing that I want to share, just because like if we're
I love this. We're doing great.
if we're talking
We're
about like what people can implement like tomorrow.
Yeah. Give me a few things. Let's spend the next bit.
Yeah, like
little
I mean,
things.
this is just one
hiring
other thing
managers,
that pops up.
owners. Let's do this. And again, YScouts, come find you if you're a high functioning. If you're ready to hire big dogs, let's right off the bat. VP of sales, CEO, executive admin, not an admin, right?
Yeah, we do a lot of second in commands, whatever that VP.
Someone
of ops,
that'll make
COO.
your life easier when you're ready to get those 6 figures and ups people higher than 6 figures.
Yeah.
We call you.
Yeah. So,
But let's give everybody an opportunity. Let's go.
yeah, I'd say this. I'd say in the world that we live in, we get hired. We get paid big fees to go find the best people out there. One of the worst things that can happen is you get to the point where somebody is head and shoulders better than everybody else, and you get them all the way to the end of the process and they take another job. That is backbreaking and demoralizing for everybody.
That happens
now
to all
they've
of us.
seen, right. So here's what you do to not have this happen to you.
Okay, get a little
We've done
drum roll.
this a million times, yeah. So same thing on, you got to use an objective scale. So now you want to hire somebody. There's two things I get into. One simple one, then we'll go back. One other thing.
Like we're at the point like, hey, I went home, told my wife, oh my God, I found the perfect person for the company. I sent them the offer. They're excited. They're all in. I've met with them 3 times already.
Yeah.
Tomorrow they're going to sign and then they take another job.
You've already fucked it up.
Yeah.
So you've sent them the offer, and what you cannot send an offer until you have an agreement to them. You say on a scale of 1 to 10, how ready are you to accept an offer from me? And the reason why you say that is we as business people, we get so excited about somebody that we're ready to hire, and we're like because we're business people, we're going to solve this by giving an offer and like playing the right cards, and that's what we do. I've seen this play out so many times. Those A players, they're not real, especially because for us, they're not looking for work. So we ask that question and they're like, well, yeah, I've got like a special needs kid that, I would have to think about maybe, we might have to move a little bit closer, or I haven't even really talked to my wife. So you got to talk through all the things
Before you give them an offer.
Before you give an offer. So they have to be a 9 or a 10 before you give them an offer. And then if they're not a 9 or a 10, you say, well, tell me about it. And you talk through it. And the other thing you have to do is you have to assume anybody good is going to get a counter offer from their prior company. So you say, and this is 90-something% certain when this happens, is you say, so I would imagine based on what you've told me, because they're crushing it at their current job, you say, so you're going to go put in your notice and you're going to get counter offered, right? And just assume they are. And they'll be like, yeah, maybe. Like, well, what are you going to do? And they walk you through their notice.
Good.
So if they walk you through their notice, people are more stand up than we think. They're not going to walk you through their notice. They're not going to say, hey, there's no way I'm taking. If somebody tells you they're not taking a counteroffer, 90% chance they're not taking that counteroffer. But you got to make them walk you through.
You have to make them tell you that they're not going to take it. Not say it. It has to be their idea.
And then say, what's the conversation going to be like? Even if you really want to get to it, like, okay, how are you going to have this conversation with your wife?
How close are you to, how close are you to your hiring manager? Not your
exactly.
What do you call it?
They're the person
your report.
Yeah.
Well, we went to dinner last week. How are they going to feel like when you're not there anymore?
100%.
So we have to exit them emotionally.
100%.
And so, okay, so odds are are you going to reach out to the other people that are going to give you offers right now? So walk me through this.
Yeah.
Somebody's got 2 or 3. They're meeting with. They all admit they're working with 2 or 3 people right now.
Yeah.
What are you going to say to those other companies?
So let's go back upstream. So this is where I wanted to go back to. Yeah. I know. So when you're in an interview and as soon as you like somebody, the first thing you got to think about is like you got to think through that, like you have a strategy. Like you want to hire the best people. So if you see any greatness in anybody, right away you're like, I know this may sound weird, But if we ended up putting an offer to you or working together, like who would we be competing against? Like, are you going to stay at your ad or are you looking at other jobs? And the reason why you ask then is the further you get in the process, people will not divulge that information, especially closer you get to like negotiating. So if you're smart enough to negotiate upstream when they're not thinking about it, that's when they're going to divulge
interview.
Who you're going to be competing with.
Got it.
And so you got to figure that out because that's an important one. Because then at the end, you can kind of use it to your advantage. And then you can kind of say, hey, we realize, there's a good chance you may stay at your company. What's that going to look like? You can talk them through that. Or, tell me, you mentioned when we first started talking that you had an interview with a A, B, and C company. Like, what are you going to do? And again, you want them to confirm that they're not interested in that company and they're only interested in you. Because if they tell you, I'm interested in these 3 other companies, why would you give an offer if you know they're going to just take your offer and then shop it with these 2 other people? You got to get them out of the picture and get commitment that they only are going to accept your offer.
This is common sense when you look at it this way. I never thought of it this way before, and I've literally made this mistake 40 times. Let's get to the next question on this. This is great. The bullshit money answer, like what people want to make, their imaginary number. Like I used to always ask, what are you accustomed to making? And for years I'd get that and people would tell me the truth sometimes.
Yeah.
What do you ask to get a real number? Because somebody's mother just told them they're worth $295,000 or $345,000 plus 10% of your company and your kidneys. Okay.
Yeah.
And then you find out they made $80,000.
Well, so this has become a lot harder because legally,
are we allowed to ask?
You're not allowed to ask.
I say, what are you
you're not allowed to
making?
ask. You could, that's illegal. You can ask.
Illegal?
And the reason why it is because the government, which I don't necessarily agree with 100%, but
I got an HR guy to stop me. I don't personally ask these questions. Yes.
So at some point they decided that which is actually gone the opposite direction, is that that females were paid a lot less because of this issue, because we were figuring out and we weren't breaking the pattern. So the government made it illegal to ask, how much are you making? So you can't ask that, but you can say, how much do you want to make and why? And as soon as you say and why, their only thing to do is base it off of what they've made before. If you're going to be like, and why?
Got it. So I'd like to make 150 because right now I'm making 110.
Yeah. And so exactly.
And why?
And why? Yeah. Tell me why.
This is a list. This is like the rule book of hiring.
Oh yeah. I mean, dude, this is right. I mean, we've made so many mistakes that we have to get this right with our clients.
You could run one of these like Twitter channels that people do where you get on X now, where you get on and like, hey, I'm about to hire someone today. What do you recommend? And like pop a quarter in for an answer. Here's $1,000 to help me cover this interview. That's an interesting business.
The other thing about compensation, when you start asking for money, you got to ask, if you're in the business of like closing people, you have to ask every time you get on the phone with them. This is best practices for our team. You ask them about their compensation requirements every time. The first time before you get to know them, that's just why you want to get to know them. They're not going to tell you that detailed answer. They're going to give you this like lumped sum that was their best year ever, that was back 5 years ago with this car allowance they don't have anymore. But that was a different
car and insurance and pet insurance.
So every time you talk to them, you don't like write that down and say that that's forever engraved in stone. You act like you didn't hear that information every time you talk to me. Like, hey, remind me about your compensation, like what you're looking for. So every time you get to see the consistency, because when people get to know, you start to get to know them better. That's why you want to get to know them, is they will start divulging more information. If they want to work for you, they actually start coming down on that number because now they like want to work for me and now they're wanting your job. And now they're kind of giving you this number that they truly is their number, because this is a negotiating game. So now they're going to be like, they're going to tell you the truth. They're not going to give you some inflated number because they want your job.
Wow.
So until they want your job, they're not going to give you probably the right number. I'm not saying everybody lies, but I'm saying especially in leadership roles where like there's where they get bonuses that are different every year, and there's a base comp and then a yearly bonus or a quarterly bonus. Like, they're not going to tell you that in detail until you get to know them more. So you got to ask every time you have.
What do you need to make and why?
What do you want to, what do you need to make and want to make and why?
Okay. That's good.
And so then they, especially the why, and then you kind of got to make them like answer that question.
Make them earn it.
Yeah.
Make them earn the reason. What are the great questions out there? Take a couple more. Enjoying this? I'm loving this.
Yeah, totally.
Do people ask you stuff all the time?
Yeah. I mean, not all the time. I mean, this is like.
I know it's old hat to you.
Yeah.
And it's like me, people asking like, hey, how do you make a call? Or how do you speak on stage? Or
I always think like.
This is useful.
Probably.
I never heard of this before. Have you?
Probably really I'd say probably a question like, if I was interviewing you and you were absolutely crushing it, and I kind of wanted to throw something in there to like throw you off.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, and everything's great and I'm perfect. And
Yeah,
I got the
exactly.
Ken thing going, Barbie. Yeah, great. Yeah.
Exactly. So you would say the question is, what's a wrongful assumption that everybody has about you? Such a trap question. The people that like are good at answering questions, you answer that. What is a good answer to that question?
So I'd say a wrongful thing is that
What's a wrongful assumption that everybody
I'm not
has
listening
about
and
you?
I don't care.
Well, yeah, and then that would tell me kind of a lot.
What would that tell you?
That would tell me that you don't care. I mean, and so you know what you're getting into. But what most people
Or
say,
somebody could say,
they'll say, I'm a workaholic or I work too much. It's the stupidest answer ever. You're like, no, you don't.
Or they'd say, what do they say when I ask that question? I'd say, I'd say, one thing wrong with me. I don't.
So, because the key is, what is a wrongful assumption that everybody has about you? So they're going to tell you something.
That I'm obsessed with work.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, interesting.
So I throw that when
that I have trouble focusing.
I think it's an illegal. I think it's not illegal. I just think it's an unfair question. But I think it's a good question for somebody that's absolutely.
How do people misread you? Yeah, like does anyone ever like misread you, or does anybody think you're ever too confident?
You asking me that, or
yeah. No. That's a good question.
I don't think so. Maybe. I mean.
The reason I ask is like, there's got to be something you're not doing right. I'm doing an interview question. I'm playing with this right now.
Yeah, no, I like that. I like that.
All right, give me one more. What else? And then your book. What do I learn from your book?
Hiring on Purpose.
I haven't read it, and I'm gonna get a copy.
Yeah.
So normally I read.
It'll talk about the process that I'm talking about.
Okay. How do they find it?
It's on Amazon.
Okay.
So
where's it? How do you spell Amazon?
What was it? So there was something I had that was so good about we were talking about interview questions.
Yeah.
There was some idea that I had. I wanted to share something.
So look up to the left. You'll always remember.
Really?
Yeah. If you look up to the left.
I'm not that great of an interviewer naturally. So I've had to learn how to be a good interviewer, and my team is way better at interviewing me. That's why I have them. But so there's a couple interview techniques that I talk about is you gotta, and I learned this from Ann Rhodes. This is value-based and also behavior-based interviewing. It always starts with tell me about a time when. And then as long as you make them specifically tell you about a specific time, because most people won't, they'll be like, well, and they start telling like what they would do. They start like telling you like what they would, and you're like, no, what did you actually do? As long as you can keep them on track to tell you, then you're gaining like real experience that is related. So that's a hard thing. And then the other thing is they call it the awe technique. It's in top grading. I won't take credit for it. And it's the term and what else. Because when you ask a question, I mean, you know about communication. You ask a question, the first thing they say isn't really the answer. You're like,
it's called the smoke screen.
Yeah, and what else? You go one layer below, and then you can say, and what else? You can keep asking that, and when there's nothing else,
something else more there. And then
the person will say, no, that's all. And then you can move on to the next question if you have a hard time. And then this is an Elon Musk, so if you don't like him, then it's tough, but he's a pretty smart dude.
We've had 3 Teslas.
Yeah, so
I have a bunch of stock too.
He had this. I give him credit for this. And then there's a guy named Tom Foster that wrote this book, Hiring Talent. I'm a hiring dork. I read these books that probably most people don't know. But the question is, when you talk to especially a leader about somebody that's going to be, talk about strategy and be a critical thinker, you have them ask you to step you through a problem that they solve. And the reason why is because people that are pretty smart, they can tell you about a problem and tell you about the solution, but they don't know all the steps to solve it. And like when you really want to know if somebody is like the person that drove like the actual process change, step me through, and you want to ask for every step. Elon Musk does this with all his
Teach me how you created that funnel. Teach me how you created that.
Yes.
How did you fix that hiring process? What exactly do?
Exactly. Step me through step by step how you fix it.
Listen to Max Hansen on podcast, and I learned. Step by step, I got a notepad out and I wrote it down, and then I met with my team, and then so then you know they actually did it, because if they skip a bunch of steps, they didn't do it.
Yeah, they didn't do it. Yeah. It gets very apparent that they didn't do it. They weren't the person that actually.
Dude, that's really big. So you'd say, walk me through the toughest sale that you ever had to make and how you actually got it done.
Yeah.
As many steps as possible, step by step by step. And then, oh man, that's good.
Yeah, especially when it comes to technical stuff, because like if you know your stuff.
Well, it's anything. I mean, it would be anything. Like you, if I wanted to hire someone to be a speaker, and like, okay, a big speaking organization, I've been in front of thousands. Okay, walk me step by step how you prepared and get ready for the event you're at.
Oh yeah.
Well, I wrote my presentation. I got up there. Now you didn't do shit. You got up that morning. You were nervous. How did you get the people in the room? You had to call people for weeks. Nobody, as soon as it started telling me I had to call them for weeks and nobody responded, do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I had to beg them to click the link, and then they had to be there, and half people didn't show up. Do you know what I'm saying? I had to deal with the hotel and the room was locked. Like, I want to know.
Yeah, exactly.
Where you really, that's good.
Yeah. Step me through and just like, they have to walk.
I am so obsessed. I own the Human Communications Institute. I bullshit myself in the past about the hiring thing with the same BS answer that most people have of it's hard, difficult, took on what I'd call social narratives of things, and never use the strength that I teach all the time is there's a human being, use human skills to influence this person to be the way they need to be so we can have a real conversation.
100%.
Anyways,
yeah.
That. So,
okay.
So last couple things. Any final thoughts or ideas? So your book, Amazon.
Amazon, yeah. Hiring on Purpose.
Hiring on Purpose, because that's what it's really about. And if you were to say, if someone was going to sit down right now, we'll take the last couple minutes, someone was going to sit down right now and go, dude, I'm looking for an ideal person to work with. What would the process I'd have to go through to get somebody help my company have their purpose?
To figure out what their purpose is?
No, not my company. I know the purpose of my company. What would be the thing that I'd sit down, grab a pen and paper?
Yeah.
What would I do before I even pick up the phone and call you?
Yeah.
And have you find me somebody? Because I could be like, I need someone to do something that I have a role.
Yeah.
What is the first step I should do to not randomly fix my current problem and to really build somebody purposely?
I think you got to figure out what your real pain point is. I mean, it's all about you're trying to maximize your time usually. So you got to figure out like, what are the opportunity costs of not having whatever it is not in place? Or the other side of that is what happens if I don't figure out and solve this problem or hire for this role?
Yep.
So you got to think about it from that. So you figure it out. I mean, I heard this in a conversation and I figured out it's true for me is like, I give entrepreneurs freedom. Because you think about it, I hire their most critical person they ever hire in their entire career. They're more free in their life ever than they were before. Their business is thriving. They get to actually spend more time with their family. Some people don't even have to work again. Some people just go off and ride into the sunset because somebody comes in and they're an executor of their business and they're 10 times better without them in the business. Not everybody wants that. But the only way to get there is to hire people that are better, smarter, and can scale. And, most of the time it's figuring out like the opportunity cost of not having that person, and or if that doesn't work for you, figure out like what ends if we give this wrong, because most people have made a wrong hire that's crushed them and they've had to like kind of crawl out of it. So I think those are the things to think about, or how important it is. I mean, everybody has a stat on how much a bad hire can cost them, but I mean, it's most people don't care though. Most people still carelessly go out and run a process and make a decision, don't do references, do all these things that we all know when we think about it, we need to do. It's just that people, they know what they need to do, but they don't do it, and I know that you do a lot of communication on that. Yep. I mean, most people know what they need to do, right? And they just don't do it.
Do you consult people ever where like, here's an interesting role. I don't know if you do this where you charge a premium. Do you ever consult people like, hey, let's just, maybe I'm not going to hire for you right now, but I want to put in your head what you need to do. And like, literally, do you do that?
You know what? I don't. And I would love to do that because I work with a lot of coaches. I would love to coach people.
You could do that. You just charge a premium, charge enough that it's worth your time. Maybe an hour or two where you sit down with somebody and they got to pay attention, because if they pay, they'll pay attention. Yeah. Where literally and maybe we can throw it out there right now. How do people get a hold of you if they wanted to do that? Because I'm just going to challenge you because your phone's going to ring.
YScouts.com.
Yep.
And there'll be a lot of call to actions.
Okay. Find you on there. But how interesting would it be like someone like, hey, I want to buy an hour of your time, 2 hours. Let's put together.
I mean, I'd love to do it. It'd be, only because I've spent so many hours.
Well, just this. Time. I mean, you could help me put together a little hiring manual. Like you could help me put this like together, and then potentially the company grows so big that they hire you to do all the recruiting.
Yeah.
But wouldn't that be interesting for like just consulting? Because I'm hearing this right now. And what the value from this episode? I'm like, if I was the HR hiring manager, this is going to immediately go to my team, and HR is going to get this, and they're going to take it apart. I mean, but that'd be really fun to like customize and build for the right person.
Yeah.
Someone that can afford you.
It would be fun. I mean, what I usually get to people is like when I talk to an entrepreneur and we start talking about hiring and they get on board, they're like, oh yeah, hiring is the most important thing that I do. And they want me to hire. And this is what I like is I only do, the higher level roles. So a lot of times if you really want me to help you figure out what you need to do, once I figure out how many people you want to hire, I can figure out the formula of like, you're going to need to hire a talent acquisition person or recruiter on your own team at this point. And then it's pretty much going to pay off in spades. Otherwise, you're going to continue to pay people like me a giant fee to continue to outsource, which is still better than hiring the wrong people. But I think like that. I'm very solutions oriented thinker, and like I usually tell people like, you're better off. Why don't we just hire you a badass talent acquisition person,
Yep.
and turn them into a cost center,
Yep.
and like start adding up all the fees that you're going to pay and
I love
outsourcing
that.
everything.
So I think step one would be somebody to consult with you and just say, hey, I want a couple hours of your time, an hour, 2 hours
Yeah.
maybe, figure out what the number is, and then figure out a plan of what the next steps would be. And then step two would be you helping them get that talent person. Maybe that is the first hire you get them.
Yeah, totally. I would say when you think about hiring, like if you can wrap your head around, which I think you do, when we start talking about hiring is the most important thing that we do. Think about if you make yourself better at hiring for every hire moving forward. So you take some of these principles and you implement them for every hire moving forward. What's the ROI on that? Is you're going to make every hire moving better in all your businesses and everything you touch. You're going to make better hires in. So that's why I have people like, don't get like too overwhelmed with all these different ideas. Go implement one forever that you know is going to change.
Yes.
These principles we're talking about, we know that they work. They work because it's basic communication and it's basic business strategy. So go implement one and do that one well, and then implement another. The problem is we like to try to implement an entire like 20 things.
I think it could be 3 things. I think literally someone could sit with you and you could tell them 3 things to do, and they have to do these 3. If not, I'm not going to talk to you again.
Exactly.
Go do these 3.
Usually, what I'll ask is like I'll help them. I'll help them identify what their hiring process is currently. Mm-hmm. And then at least kind of help them like, hey, here's what you need to start doing, changing. This is what you need to change in that, and just start doing that every time to start.
This is big.
And then come back to me if you need to hire, if you need to hire people that's not, working well enough, I'll hire the people. Usually one of the things that we do is help them hire a leader that's good at hiring. So we up-level their hiring by just hiring them one leader that also has a skill set of hiring, because that's what we're looking for. And if
then you can offload them, and then they send you the next.
And then all of a sudden they're like, well, shit, you just up. Yeah, that's because we focused on making sure that this person, we verify that they know how to hire people, and so your whole your hiring system just got up level because you hired a leader in sales that knows how to hire.
Because the owner of the company shouldn't be hiring.
Yeah.
And someone that's in the sales department shouldn't be hiring.
The owner of the company, like if you think about when people tell us what a priority this is, I think in any business that's growing 20 to 25, 20 to 30%, which I think is the goal of most businesses, where you're growing, at this like up to the right, the CEO of the business should be spending 20% of their time on hiring at the minimum. So when you really think about that, 20% of 40 hours a week, you start doing the calculations. Are people really spending that much time hiring?
They're putting an ad out there,
and
meeting people.
That's just to be in the game. But I think if you're a fast growing company and you're growing at 50%, you probably as a CEO need to spend 50% of your time in hiring. There was Paul Pullman who worked at Unilever. I saw him speak one time on this, and one of his strategies that I thought was genius is every place he traveled to in the country, obviously Unilever's a global organization, he would make it a point to interview somebody for that office. It could be an entry-level position, but what he was setting was the example of how important hiring is. And so he'd go there and he'd interview somebody. Be like, all right, we're going to have these meetings, and then I'm going to do an interview. So if you're some sales rep, in like Switzerland or something, you're like an entry-level sales rep. Well, all of a sudden, Paul Pullman was interviewing you, the CEO of the company. Hopefully you knew who he was. But when I heard him talk about that, it landed. So even if somebody listened to this and they said, all right, I can buy some of what you're selling, start spending time at least interviewing people more often than you are now. If you're letting your team do it, be like, hey, I want to be involved in this process. You don't even have to do it all the time. Just do it a little bit more consistently and show that it's a priority, because when they see you do it, they'll know it's important and they'll start doing it better.
This is huge. Max, this is, I could talk to you all day. Like, this is great. So in the comments, if you guys are enjoying this, you want to do this again, we're going to welcome him back, and definitely grab his book, Amazon, go get the book. Definitely want to get that. We'll put that in the show notes and everything as well. So I want to appreciate you, brother. Appreciate you coming out. The Average Sucks Show, definitely beyond above average, what you delivered today. So I want to thank you, my friend.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
Super amazing. Glad to have you here.
All right, listen, let me take this opportunity right now. Congratulate you for living a life that screams average sucks. How do I know that? You're listening to this right now, and I can guarantee you're a person that wants more in life. So 1, congratulations, and 2, I bet you're looking for a shortcut. How do I get there quicker? How do I make this stick more? And since 2008, the fastest way that we've showed people how to become a person that lives a life that screams average sucks, and on top of that, Become a person of influence and get what they want in this world is our Core Live event. We've got one coming up very soon. The website is simple, michaelbernoff.com/Core Live. All the information, all the videos, and everything is there to find out more. And also an incredible early bird special to give you a big old discount. Again, michaelbernoff.com/Core Live, and I'm excited to see you there.